What's up? What's up? It's your girl Michelle with the Raindrop Combos and
Stacy, what's going on, guys?
what's up, dog?
Oh,
What's
girl.
going on, dog?
What's girl? Look, paying the rent.
Man, that's
Ain't
it.
nothing going on but the
That's
rent.
it. That's it, man. It's Sunday night, and we are totally dedicated to always being here, no matter where
Yes,
we are, what we got going
yes,
on, man. It's the flick of a phone, it's pushing a button on a phone, a camera, or whatever the case. But we are
yes,
dedicated to coming in and having these conversations on Sunday night, whether it's one person listening or 1,000 people listening. It makes us no difference. We are trying to have these conversations. So if you're on
right.
live with us, please drop, share, like, comment, drop your comments, and let us know what you feeling about the topic that we're speaking on. And tonight we are talking about pretty heavy, pretty heavy.
Pretty heavy. Yeah. I mean, tell us what we're talking about tonight, Michelle.
Man, we are talking about depression in Black boys. An article I read that says depression in Black boys begins earlier than you think, and that was something that
Yeah.
really struck me. And I hit my girl up and say, "Hey, man, let's talk about this." We were going to have a guest on. He's going to be with us next Sunday. So tonight we say we jump on real quick and talk about this. We are both mothers of young Black boys, and so this is
Yes.
something that concerns
Teenagers.
us
Yeah.
exactly as well as others. So hey, let's jump into this conversation.
Let's go.
Let's do it. All
So,
right.
yeah,
So
girl.
yeah, it struck
You
me.
hit me. Go
Yeah.
ahead.
No, tell me, because when I sent it to you, because we were like, okay, well, our guest is not going to make it tonight. What do you want to
Yeah.
talk about? I sent you this topic. What made you want
Yeah.
to? Yeah, tell me.
Um, you sent it to me, and like I'm huge. As you said, we're both mothers, and our sons are babies, And so when you texted me, kind of panicking because we did have, we were supposed to have an interview or
Hmm.
interview, and I'm at the park, kids, and when I saw the topic and I saw the article, like I just kind of looked at my baby, he
Mm.
towers over me,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
he's always mama's baby.
Hmm.
And so it was like, I was kind of happy after I read through the article because I read through the article kind of walking through the park,
Hmm.
and I'm like, okay, he's happy, I'm a mom who checks in, and I know you check
Hmm.
in with your kids, so checking in, but making sure that we have opportunities where we can get together as a family and have some dialogue in a fun, open environment, and just kind of make sure that we are staying checked in on them.
Hmm.
And so it was when I saw it, I was just like, perfect.
Hmm.
This is the perfect topic for tonight. And we have boys, I
Yeah.
mean, they're teenagers, and the things that they're facing in school and, just family life,
Yeah.
whatever. It's a lot. It's a lot on these boys. And we don't know
Definitely.
how they process it. As women, we don't really know how they process it. What are your
Yeah.
thoughts?
I mean, I totally agree. And while we speak on it, I'm going to cue up a video I found because I
Okay.
was astonished to find that when you Google young Black boys that have committed suicide, we're talking about this study in this article talks about boys between the ages of what was it, 5 and 11 years old.
Ooh.
I was kind of surprised. And so while we talk and while I give my thoughts, I'm going to cue up a video, of a family that had to, deal with this. And I imagine that it was definitely not easy. And so
Right.
anyone that's watching and listening, if you could, give me a minute to, pull this up so you can see that this is not an isolated incident. This is something that's kind of happening more than we know. And so
Yeah.
give me just a sec, y'all. All right. Give me just a second, y'all.
Because Michelle has to wear two hats.
Yeah, I'm producing tonight. So
and
let me
put
know if
on
you guys
this
hear the audio.
beautiful face.
Yes.
But inside, I hurt because I missed my pick.
They believe Jeffrey Taylor's death may be more suicidal than accidental. His parents think he was bullied to death.
In this Eyewitness News exclusive, they tell Eyewitness News reporter Marvin Hurst their son's school system needs to accept part of the blame and make sure it doesn't happen again.
Jermaine and Lakeisha Cheney are using their pain to seek change.
Because a lot of people don't know his story.
December 21st, 2019, 4 days before Christmas, San Antonio police are called to the Cheneys' home on Channelview for a tragedy in a bedroom.
He wasn't a bad child. He was just, hyper, just like, and running around and playing just like any other 6-7-year-old child would be.
The parents say they kissed all of their sleeping kids before going to bed, including baby boy Jeffrey Taylor. His mother says the first grader came home broken after school.
I want to get away from that school. They don't listen to me. They don't like me.
According to the Cheneys, the 7-year-old told them he wanted his first grade year at Salado Elementary School to be his last because he sat segregated from his class, was bullied, and called names.
Calling him Nick, Blackie, Snaggletooth, ugly.
Before his parents could try to investigate their son's claims, he got his hands on a gun in their home and killed himself in the middle of the night.
When I went to that room, all I could do was just scream, and I just ran back out and screaming at my wife. She couldn't hear me.
I went straight to the room. I saw my baby laying there like he normally is. But when I looked to the left, I saw my gun. And I saw blood, dry blood on my baby's face. And I just screamed. I yelled, and I said, I'm holding Jeffrey more. My baby was hard as a rock. As hard as a rock. I put him back. And all I can do is run.
Police say the shooting was accidental. Investigators did not say if they looked for signs of a suicide. His parents believe Jeffrey's death was tied to his school.
No matter what I said to him that Friday, the day before, it wasn't enough because he was already broken.
In a statement, East Central ISD say they profoundly mourn Taylor's loss, as he was a bright and well-liked student. The system says they are saddened to hear about the allegations, but after a multi-level probe, their investigation did not produce information to corroborate the allegations. However, in a meeting with Jeffrey's mom, the superintendent admitted they did not get a chance to speak with the most important party, Jeffrey.
It just seems like he was being targeted and picked on because he was just that one person that stood out.
The Cheneys, who say they never even bought their son a play gun, accept the responsibility for their baby boy finding a real one in their home.
How could this happen, And that's what bothers me the most, that he's not here, So I take, all of that weight is on us.
So in their bottomless grief, they speak out, hoping their pain will save lives.
Don't have anything to lose. I already lost him. And that was Jeffrey. So I have nothing to lose.
Marvin Hurst, KENS 5, Eyewitness News.
So now, obviously, there are those questions as to if it was accidental, but just go and Google young black boys that have committed suicide. And so this is not an isolated incident. You know what I mean? Hold on just a sec. Let me remove that. All right. So, girl.
That was hard to watch. That was extremely hard to watch. Because
a first grader.
As a mother, right, you feel like I felt all of the pain in her spirit and her soul coming through her words.
Mm-hmm.
And when you empathize, and you put yourself in someone else's shoes, I just couldn't imagine. Like, there's no way I can begin to fathom someone hurting my child, my son, so much that he takes his own life and that he feels that bad about himself, at that age, to where even in his little, undeveloped mind, that's the only solution that he sees. I'm sorry.
No, I hear you, and I know it's kind of
That's just a
deep for
lot.
us. I know,
That's a
and it's
lot.
deep. It's deep for a Sunday
That's a
night,
lot.
but I think it needs to be talked about because the thing
It's
is, somebody will see, and you would be surprised how many of these types of stories are out there. And I think we see it, and we say, "Oh, praying for the family." My God, I can't believe it. Until you hear about it and it's closer to home. And so, I mean, you're talking about a boy that had a mom, had a dad, where are the other, reasons why they say
yeah,
kids do the things that they do?
social
Right.
issues, right?
Right. They did not seem to exist. This looks like a well-balanced family by all intents and purposes by what's being seen. And so that report, that was actually a study about 5 to 11-year-old boys, Black boys. But what I'm concerned about is what happens after the age of 11. Who's tracking what happens? Because in my opinion, because my son is 13 years old. And so he's gone through the bullying and all that, and thank God he made it through that. But what happens after that? I think that a lot of our boys, when they get into their teenage years, their suicidal tendencies manifest themselves in different ways by being
Yes.
gang related criminals. And
Yes.
you know what I mean? I think that's suicidal
Yes.
behavior. I think
Yes.
that, hey, I'm either going to go to jail or die on the streets. That's a suicidal,
I
depressed
mean,
person.
go ahead.
No, I mean that's my feelings on that. So this study, the fact that it covered the 5 to 11 range was shocking to me. But to think that it does manifest itself, because I think that Black men don't really know how to the way they manifest their depression is different than the way women do. You know what I mean? We can say, I think we are more expressive, maybe with, different ways. I don't know, but I just know this is something that we need to talk
Absolutely.
about.
But this is when I hear things like this, I think of the larger societal issue that we have. And we have, and I don't know if it's to some level or extent always been like this, or if our increased, technology and social media and all has kind of, hurried it along. But why are we so mean? Like,
Right.
why are these kids okay? And I'm talking about the kids that are doing the bullying. Why is what they're not taught at home kindness? Not downing other people, not treating other people in manners in which you want to be treated. You don't want to be treated. Like, it's simple kindness. And I don't understand why kids think it's okay. I remember my kids being little and, younger, and maybe they would, see something and, let's just say somebody was, larger, or a kid that was different. And I made sure to let them know, even, from a very young age, we don't do that. We're friendly. Like, if you see someone being bullied or treated badly, you don't do that. You don't join in that.
Right.
You show them kindness. You show them that they matter. And so why isn't that something that's taught? Because if we were teaching that to our kids, who would be the bullies?
There wouldn't be. There wouldn't be. I
There
mean,
wouldn't. So go ahead.
I'm just saying, it's just, oh God, it's such an emotionally charged topic because, like I said, my kids have dealt with it. I don't know if they've ever been the bully. I know that they have a tendency to bicker with one another around the house, and I can see that, and I can immediately stamp that out. Like the other day when my daughter Jazz had her homegirl over for the weekend, and they were walking the neighborhood, and Juju was like, "I want to go," and Jazz was like, "Okay, come on." I ran out there immediately, and I said, "Juju, no." I said, "You don't have to go with anybody that that talks to you like that." And I'm talking about my own daughter Jazz. But I'm telling my daughter Juju, you don't have to deal with that. To go along, get along, just to go with somebody. And Jazz immediately got herself together and went and nicely presented herself to her sister and said, "Yeah, you can walk with me and my friend." You got to check that stuff immediately. You know what I'm saying? You're not gonna bully at home. I don't know what y'all doing at school. I don't get calls that my kids are bullying anybody, but they are being bullied in some instance, in some form or another. And I think that they have to understand that that's unfortunately a part of life. You know what? We get bullied as adults. Believe it or not, you can get bullied on your job. It takes on a different form. It takes on a different form, but there's bullying everywhere. And that's the world we live in. But I mean, if you don't have a good solid foundation, man, oh.
But for, also, I think that it has to be, and it's something that I try to remain cognizant of, is that absolutely, Monica, they do.
Yes.
I forgot what I was about to say. But it has to be very difficult to grow up being the most hated demographic, like for real, in the world. Like straight up, like past America, let's understand that the Black man, I don't care what your nationality is, the Black man is seen as the most culpable, as the article that you have on the screen goes into. But the most culpable, they're the most blamed, or the most looked down upon or frowned upon demographic in the world. How do you develop your sense of self-worth in this world? And knowing that you matter, your feelings matter, you can stand up for yourself, like just all of that.
Right.
How do you maintain that knowing that you're hated by so many? It's gotta be hard. And so my heart goes out to any Black man. Because even those who have chosen the wrong path, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because I understand what's behind it. And I understand how hard it has to be to have to fight from the time you're born because you are a particular race and a man. And when you have so many other people and races trying to bring you, even your own, trying to keep you down,
Right.
It's amazing that we have some of the men, that we've talked about and we, have had on our show. Like, it's amazing that they've been able to make it to where they have made it, dealing with the societal factors that they've had to deal with since they arrived on this earth.
Right.
It's crazy. It's crazy.
Yeah. And I would like to know where they, like you said, where do they gather the strength? Because I know, for us as Black women, I think that, we face, a lot of our own, issues as a result of being minority women. But I think we have more opportunities. And so what we cannot let that do is make us look at these Black men that have less opportunity, because they have really propped up the Black woman. We are the most degreed, the most educated, the most, successful.
So we have to understand that's by
Yeah.
design.
Exactly.
It's by design
Yeah, it's
because
not because we're just so much,
no, but it's to
Yeah.
keep the Black man down.
Pretty much.
And that's why, like, you don't see that
Yeah.
in any other race. You don't see it. The man is the leader, the strong one. He's the protector, of the community. But when go ahead.
I think as Black women, we can't let that go to our heads and start downgrading the men themselves to say, well, look what I've got. Why can't you do it? It's like we kind of forget the fact that this is by design. And so what we
You got a scholarship, sis.
I mean, come on. I mean, it's easier for you to climb. If they're making it easier for you to climb that corporate ladder than for him to climb that corporate ladder. I mean, so come on, let's look at. So we look at them and we think, oh, you're a loser. You don't take care of your children. I get the frustration because believe you me, I have been there. I understand the frustration with Black men and all of that. And so we're not alleviating them of their accountability to say, you know what, you got to get your, get your feet up under you. But the thing is, you got to let go of that pride. When you know the kind of society you're living in, yes, now you work with that Black woman to, still get and have what you need to have. You don't turn on her and make it a gender war, which is what they're wanting. Because your kids, your young boys are looking at that. So you don't know what leads to their depression, their suicidal thoughts, and their behavior. They've been raised by single mothers, and now they're thinking, okay, well, it is what it is. Let me find me a woman that's going to take care of me, when I become an adult. No. I don't, girl.
I mean, and we also have to, understand that what a lot of, Black men have gone through, like, yes, some of them have chosen to stay stuck in that mentality. They've chosen to stay stuck. It's a choice. At a certain point, it's a choice. And you asked about the age, what happens after 11 years old. And I think, in my opinion, like, from the time that they're born, as mothers, we have to pour so much into them. We have to make sure that we are there, we're listening. And sometimes they don't know how, like you said, women are more expressive. So sometimes they don't know how to express it. So you have to kind of look for clues. And I think the article that, we're looking at now also states that it takes a village. And everyone has to be able to recognize the signs. And when, a young boy is, when he's depressed, you have to recognize those signs. And sometimes it may come out in acting out. It may come out in behavior problems. It may show itself in, maybe stealing or lying, or all of those things are symptoms. And so we have to be able to recognize and then address those issues for what they are, not for what they look like on the surface, but for what they actually are.
Right. Gotcha. And definitely want to make sure that they're not getting propped up in areas where you should be the one giving them their reinforcements of who they are. Because I know those kids, they can start playing football. And so the coach, they're winning there. That's where they're getting their self-esteem. And so when that ends, and I think, at some point we're going to have an ex-football. Yeah, we're going to have an ex-football player on here. We're going to find out, what happens when you don't reach that pinnacle, when you don't get the Super Bowl ring. How do you, continue to live
when
your
life? Career ends early.
Right.
Earlier than expected. What do you do to pick yourself up? It's a process. Yeah.
Depression does not just, is not, this article just highlights it for a certain age group. This is what they studied, which is very scary, because to think that it's happening at that young age, but think about the ones that get through that stage. But if they had those tendencies, how is it manifesting throughout their life if they're not getting the help and the support they need? So
and then the article also talks about clinicians and how there have been studies on just how many clinicians are accurately diagnosing young Black boys. They're giving the non-Hispanic white males the diagnosis of depression, but we're not giving that to young Black boys, at an equivalent amount. That's a problem. That's a healthcare system problem.
Yeah.
That we know that there are disparities between genders. I mean, between gender and race in the healthcare system. But when it starts to negatively impact our sons, our boys,
and I mean,
the backbones of our community, yes, women are. I get it. But these are the protectors. These are the hunters and gatherers,
Thank
so,
you.
yeah,
there's no black child. Their back. Man, there's no black child. There's no black community without the black man. I mean, period. You know what I mean? Whatever you think about.
Without either.
And that's what I'm saying. So if you eliminate one, then what? So when you think about all these men,
already got the other one.
Right. So when you think about all these men that have been sent to jail that sold weed or sold drugs because they were depressed and had to do whatever they thought they had to do, whatever they had to do, let's think about it, man. Go back and check your history. Let's put 2 and 2 together. Think about what happened out in California and in Compton and all of those communities where they were industrialized and they started moving the jobs out. And these guys got really depressed because they could not feed their families. Well, guess what? Their offspring, when those men start hanging out on the corners, drinking alcohol, their sons and their daughters or whatever decided, you know what? We're going to make it. I can't live like this. I'm going to go sell drugs. I'm going to do whatever I have to do to survive. And so that's a form of depression when you're seeing that as your only option. To me, that's despair because you're putting your life in danger. Even taking on something like that, I'm going to go sell drugs. And like, that's a real career. Like that's something that you're going to be 100% safe in doing. No, you're putting your life on the line. So essentially the part of you is a bit suicidal. That's like, I'm gonna take a chance because I don't see any other options.
That is. But I mean, we also have seen that, culture, gang culture, drug and criminal, culture kind of, I don't know. I mean, it's kind of blown up for our boys. It's sensationalized for our boys. Like, that's how you prove you're strong. That's how you prove,
that's a man.
That's how you get your street cred.
Right.
No, but I was watching a documentary some years ago. And I mean, I think it was a documentary, but it was, I want to say maybe The Game, the rapper The Game.
Oh, okay.
But it was about the gangs in, California and kind of the history of the gangs. And I was very surprised to learn that gangs weren't like, they didn't start in criminal activity. These men weren't coming together to be criminals. It started with them protecting their neighborhoods against outsiders.
Right.
They actually were coming together to protect, South Central, I don't know, California like that, but that's what they were called, SWAT or WATs. That's what it is. We got SWATs. WATs. But they were coming together and protecting their individual neighborhoods. And so those were the, sets, that they were protecting. It wasn't about crime and, killing, kids or drugs. It wasn't about that.
Right.
And I think that if we can kind of, start to reverse some of those negative effects that we see that we've allowed society to create, again, in order to keep our men down. If we look back during slavery, if we look back to why was it so important for the, plantation master to emasculate the black man, the man?
Right.
Why did they think it was okay, or what was supposed to be, or the intended result of them raping, their wives, black men's wives in front of them, their kids, selling them off to other, people? Like, what was the real intended result? And is that what we're living in now? Are we seeing those intended results right now in our current culture?
Yeah. I mean, I definitely think so. And I think it's definitely about power and control. And so, like you said, a lot of those gangs really were kind of a result of the Black Panther Party that they completely crushed back in California. Those guys were providing free lunch programs and everything, for that community. And so, but the thing is, there was not a lot of support, and definitely not once they started to flood it with drugs. I mean, that's been proven. I mean, COINTELPRO, that's been proven that they literally and intentionally.
And if you need to know about that, watch Snowfall on FX.
I mean, watch Snowfall, watch your boy what's your boy Rick Ross, and I'm not talking about the rapper Rick Ross. I'm
Freeway
talking about
Rick Ross,
Freeway Rick
Right.
Ross, and he will tell you about the type of cartel he was involved in that let him simply move in so much crack into that area without any type of they didn't try to stop him at all until it was time to take him down. So, like I said, it's not giving anybody a free pass. It's just talking about how we're trying to build back up to what because I don't know that this was a phenomenon back before, in the 40s and 50s and the 60s, back when, Black communities were, kind of, they had their freedom. Yeah, they were segregated, but they were doing their own thing. I don't know that suicide between 5 and 11-year-olds was a thing.
I don't think we have to go back that far.
Yeah.
I mean, it hasn't been a phenomenon, since the 2000s. You know what I'm saying? So let's look at what's really happening here.
Yeah.
We have an entire society that's focused on what other people are doing. Right. And it's focused on making you feel less than who you are because of what you don't have and sometimes what you do have.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so you're, as we saw earlier, like you have this little boy who seems to have this very well balanced life, and he can't go to school and be safe. He can't go to school and not be ridiculed. He can't go to school to learn.
Right. And some of the things that were said to him are things that we heard growing up, oh, you snag a tooth, you this. I mean, just completely.
But I mean, here's what got me with that, though. The N-word. So that tells me
had to be right.
He was in, a situation where he was the minority. Right. And I have my own opinions on that. I do. I have my own opinions on that. We'll leave that for another conversation. But when we start to, as burgeoning, Black families, a burgeoning middle class, as we start to move up, increase our salaries and move out of our own communities, like, think about that, because I'm gonna be honest. Like I have a lot of friends who moved out, and I won't say where, but they moved, out of the Atlanta area, and they chose to move other places. Great, but what are you dealing with school? How are your kids dealing with that?
Right.
I'm just saying, because you have to also think about the impact of your kids when it comes to being that young and having to deal with some of the same, racial issues and all that you as an adult have to deal with. As an adult, how would you handle someone calling you the N-word on your job?
Exactly.
I'm just saying, because most adults I know, those are fighting. That's a fighting word.
Period. You know what I mean? Fighting word. Be prepared to lose your job. So imagine a child, man. This was a first grader.
Process that as a 6 or 7-year-old.
Right.
And then it appears that it was, on a consistent basis. But I mean, that particular night, I guess, it was just too much for him to come home and say, I don't want to ever go back.
Right.
So as parents, when we hear our kids, say things like that so emphatically, we have to really stop. This is a 911 thing. We got to stop. We got to address this. I'm not leaving you. If you feel this way, guess what? Ain't nobody getting no sleep tonight.
Right.
Until we resolve this, and so, I mean, they didn't know. So there's no blame, and again, they did take blame for the gun.
Yeah.
They did, they did take accountability for the gun. And I applaud them for doing that. But it's an entire system issue.
Yeah.
We can't allow our Black boys to continue to be marginalized. We just can't do it. Like, who's going to stand up for them? We have so many, we have female, this and women empowerment and all that. Who's going to stand up for these little boys who are usually not coming to you saying, so-and-so said something about me and it made me feel like they're not really doing that. If you see the remnants, if there was a fight or, got in trouble at school. Yeah. But on a regular basis, I check in. I mean, and I got this actually from a radio host, because I used to ask my kids, when I would pick them up from school or they walk in the house, how was your day? And what do you get? Fine.
That was right.
Fine. So I heard a radio host saying that's what they were getting. And so they started to then ask, what was your favorite thing about school today? And what was your least favorite thing about school today?
Right. Be specific. Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
And so you have to learn how to open that dialogue with them, and it's harder with boys.
Yeah.
Because they're just not used to opening up. They're afraid. They don't know, they don't want to look weak. They don't want to look scared. Listen, when my kids were little, we would sit on the ground. Hey, come on, sit on the floor. Let's have a, powwow in a little circle. And we were having a powwow. And so that was something that kept me in the know, so that if there were any of those signs, then I can recognize it and let's go ahead and, clean this on up right now.
Yeah. Like I said, man, the stories are everywhere. When you look
out there,
and just go
Google.
Oh,
so
look at
cute.
Look at
that
beautiful
face.
This is an 8-year-old, Cincinnati, you know what I mean? Where they said that it was covered up and that the school, because sometimes, like you said, if you're not asking what's going on, your kids aren't really telling you what's going on. Yeah, school was fine, mommy. Everything was great. And so, because that's what they're told to do, it's just, be, man up, man. You go home and say something, man. You a punk, you'll sell out, and all of this type of craziness. And so, like I said, on this Sunday, I just wanted to, bring this up and address the fact that it's not just about women with sons. It's about all of us, because these are our brothers, our cousins.
Right,
these
our
are,
uncles,
and when they make it past this stage of the bullying and all the craziness going on, that doesn't mean they're not still dealing with depression and suicidal thoughts. And so if they're drinking excessively, if they're just doing anything that's out of character, there's something we need to be concerned about. And people say, oh, well, that's not my son. My son has straight A's. But guess what? You don't want your son to encounter somebody like this who's suicidal on the street corner one day that just could care less about their life and their own life. So it is our problem. It's everybody's problem. So let's stop thinking
it's all of our problems.
It's all of our. This is a community problem. This is somebody's little baby, and this is somebody's nephew. This is somebody's grandson. And so this is having an impact on that family, and who knows what it did to that family, psychologically. So like I said, man, all of us, that are traipsing in the church on Sunday or whatever you do, to call yourself a
You
good
didn't
person.
just strike that chord, did you?
I did because it's Sunday.
You didn't just that one.
I did because everybody walks out of church on Sunday feeling holier than thou. And then what are you doing Monday through Saturday? I'm sorry. I'm going to say that because the thing is, these things are happening. These are, you go and interview a lot of these people that say they're Christians and I believe in God. And but what are you doing? We are in crisis mode right now. We are in crisis mode all over our community, not to mention with a global pandemic and all of that.
Yeah, so I can't even imagine how the pandemic and what they've had to go through, during that time, how that has increased the depression that leads to the, the suicide.
Oh my gosh. Those that don't have good parents, that have abusive parents.
I was going to say, right. You don't know what they face at home, that school is actually the escape.
Exactly. And if school is torture, then what do
then at that point, that's why these babies feel like the only way to resolve the issues is to not be here anymore.
Exactly.
That's when we get
so young, man. So young.
Yeah. And then YouTube doesn't help because I remember I remember my kids and my kids are happy, I guess I asked them again, but they're happy, well-balanced kids. And I remember when they were younger, them telling me like, oh, they're suicide. You can watch some, suicide videos on YouTube. What do you mean?
Crazy.
How do you even know what suicide is?
Right.
At this age. And that they were probably around that age, but why does a 7-year-old know what suicide is?
Exactly.
I mean, why does a 7-year-old know where to get the gun from? The family gun?
And I'm
I'm
telling
not an
you,
advocate against having guns, but I'm
but
definitely,
knowing how that's what
for
I'm saying.
protecting your children and having those guns locked up somewhere in your house, not just thrown or strewn
Right.
somewhere.
Right.
No, not when you
Because I
have little
think that
kids.
they're too impressionable, because I'm
Yes,
telling you, if adults can think about suicide, imagine a child even
not think
having
about, but
one thought.
committed.
Yeah, but if a child in their immature mentality could think, man, I could just end it all and I have no more problems, they're not, man, I think it's
And
almost
because
easier
maybe
for
they don't see the
them.
finality of it.
They don't.
Maybe their
Yeah,
young minds don't understand, like, this is the most final you can get. It's
right.
no coming back from that. And so
Exactly.
maybe they really can't understand what
Hmm.
that really means. And they just see it as, okay, you get to sleep for a while. Maybe,
Right.
because I can't imagine a 6, 7, 8, even an 11-year-old feeling like it's so bad that they don't want to be here anymore. They don't want to ever see their mom and dad anymore. They don't ever want to see their siblings anymore. It's just hard for me to think that they understand that
What that
that's
really
it.
means.
Yeah.
Right. This is
Yeah.
a baby. Do you see this baby's face? This is
I
a
see that
baby.
beautiful baby face. Yes,
This is
I
a baby.
do.
This is just one less baby that we have in our community that could have gone on to do
He
great,
could have
and
gone on to
wonderful things.
become, the president of the United States.
Exactly.
He could have gone on to become anything that he wanted to.
Right.
And for his life to be taken over words,
And I
that's a
mean, but it's
lot.
cruel. It's,
That's,
I'm telling you,
very
going through
cool.
school,
Very.
is not easy, because there's a lot of wanting to fit in. And I mean,
And
there's
it's
a lot of
worse now than
pressure.
it was when we were younger.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I can only imagine. And so I have to really kind of check myself to, when I'm dealing with my kids, I'm like, well, what's the big deal and all that. But, maybe for them it is a bigger deal than it was for me. I'm like, just be you. And that's easier said than done.
But you learned that, like, you've
Yeah.
learned to come to that over experience and time. And
Right.
so they haven't had that. And so we're trying to teach it to them and kind of give them, the Cliff Note version,
Right.
so that they
Right.
can get through it. But there is no Cliff Note version to life. There
Right.
just isn't. And
You're right.
so, we have to walk through it with them every step of the way and keep their confidence built up so that they know, like, listen, I tell my kids, listen, all these popular kids and all that, like, all the ones who got everything, check them in 20 years.
It's a girl. And that's what I tell mine all the time.
20 years.
That's what I tell him all the
Worry
time.
about yourself.
Yeah, my son is considered, that he gets bullied because he's, a gamer. He's a computer geek. He's, and these
smart
kids
guy.
think, yeah, he's different, and so I'm like, but dude, check yourself in the next 20 years. See where all the ones that are talking that technology is going to rule the world. So you are actually ahead of the game. If you can just get through this, you know what I mean? If you can get through this, you are going to be looking back like, I can't believe that I let any of that stuff bother me. But we still got to kind of meet them where they are, and understand it's not easy for them. And it can be frustrating at times, but
oh, absolutely. And as a parent, like, I remember my kids being little, and I mean like 2, 3 years old. And my son, he used to speak to everybody. He just, we'll be walking, he'd just be like, hi, hi, hi. Now he ain't that friendly now. But and let somebody not speak back.
Right.
Let me tell you something.
Yeah.
Mama was like, hey, did you hear my baby speak to you?
Right.
Seriously. And so the thought that somebody is saying something or hurting my kid, my son, to make him feel like that, I'm ready to, I just heard on the way home tonight, throw them balls,
Right, exactly.
I'm just saying, you don't want to see your kids hurt at all. And you definitely don't want to see them in this kind of pain.
Right.
To where they feel like this is the only resolution.
Right.
No,
and this family, I know this will forever impact them, along with all of the other families that have dealt with that. And so I'm just asking and praying that, we all can come together, as a community and recognize these things. Like I said, this is not just a news report that we hear, we get sad about for a minute and think, okay, well, it is what it is. This
Right.
might be your child, and these might be
Right.
signs and symptoms that you have not even really recognized. It seems overwhelming. There's so much that we have to deal with. But guess what? Everybody has a gift to be able to, you can do something for the local kid in the neighborhood that does not have a father, or the local,
Yes.
child that does not have anybody good and influential around them. It doesn't
Yes.
hurt for you to give a little bit of yourself, of your time, to help somebody else. I think if we did that, we could at least make a dent in this problem instead of making it, obviously it's getting worse. We don't want to see it get worse. We want to see it get better. And so, like I said, man, we just want to jump on and have this conversation. I definitely want to give a shout out.
Let me say this. Hold on. Let me say this, because I do want to speak to what you said. It's very important that, if you see, your child has issues, if your child, recognize some of the signs, it's important to get them a mentor, put them in a mentorship program.
Yes.
And it doesn't make you less of a parent. No, everybody needs mentors,
Right. Yeah.
So put them in a mentoring program that is there to build them up. And when I say that, let me say also, I know you're about to get some shout outs. So let me say, well, go ahead. I'll do mine after you do that. Because I interrupted you.
No, mine was just, I didn't want to ignore. I want to give prayers out to Louisiana right now. With that hurricane moving. Ida is tearing up, and moving through there. We're probably going to catch a little bit of the remnants, coming up the East Coast. So I know that that's on a lot of people's hearts and minds tonight. So I definitely want to at least, poke that in to let them know we are not at all, unaware of what's going on in the world. But as usual, we want to try to touch on as many topics as we can. So in hopes that it will, touch someone and inspire them to do something. I donate. I do the best I can. I have a son. He has a father, but my son actually needs a mentor too. His father works. He's busy. He's not always around. He needs a mentor. He needs a good, strong. He always said, "Mommy, I want a big brother." He loves his father. And they have, they have the relationship that they have. But he wants a big brother, and I'm like, I need to find my baby a mentor or a big brother. So there's nothing wrong with that. If they ask, it's for a reason. Yeah,
it's an enhancement to their lives.
Yes.
Yeah. And so, and I know we talked about, just community, doing things in your community. If you can't find, a program, start one. You know what I mean?
Like in your neighborhood, in your garage.
I'm just saying.
Right.
I'm just saying. Let me, and I think I told you earlier this week, my son went to DJ. He's always talked about being a DJ. And I reached out to one of the guys that, DJs here in Atlanta. Shout out to DJ Slick. I'm going to get back with you soon. But, for being willing to mentor my son in DJing. Like, there are opportunities out there. Find out what they like. Get them involved in something they like. It may be different from all the other kids. Who cares? They can find something that they enjoy doing and that gives them peace and gives them joy, But in saying that, shout out to, Gary Davis at Next Level Boys Academy. And I think it's in Union City, Georgia, here, the Atlanta area. Shout out to people out there that are doing those things. Shout out to Zena's house, out there mentoring, girls and boys.
Doing the work.
Doing the work. We need these types of programs in our communities for our boys, especially, but for our girls too. We need to make sure that we are focusing on our youth and making sure that we are giving them and pouring everything we can, because that's our future.
Indeed.
That's our future. Indeed. And we owe it to them. And we owe it to ourselves, because at some point they're gonna have to take care of us.
Because it's gonna be a done deal.
Make these decisions. Yeah.
And so what they become is going to be our responsibility. I don't care if you say, "Oh, it was the parents. It was on the parent." No, if you were a neighbor, if you were an auntie, if you were somebody that saw the problem and you didn't do anything about it, I'm sorry, but you're kind of responsible.
If you see something, say something. I mean, go even further. Do something.
That's what I'm saying. Otherwise, you are actually held accountable for that. Believe it or not, you're held accountable if you saw where you could help out. and you didn't. So I know, it might seem kind of heavy, but when you help other people, you actually, whatever issues you're dealing with kind of lighten up if you know the principle of reciprocity and, harvest and seed. So come on,
Universal
man,
law,
let's do this.
Christianity, all of that.
It.
Right?
Whatever it is, you give and it will be given unto you tenfold, so. Anyway, lady, I know as usual, we said I was going to keep it quick. But,
I know.
Just under an hour, but I love talking to my chick about just these types of issues and stuff that's going on. Looking forward to next Sunday's podcast with our boy Carl Wright, and we'll just kind of save any other information about him until next Sunday's podcast. But thank you guys for joining us.
We're serious about building our Black men up.
Period.
Just as we have been serious about women empowerment. It's a community thing, guys. It's a community thing.
Yeah,
there is no gender war.
There is no gender war. We rebuke that. There is no gender war. There is gender confusion, possibly. There's confusion about the roles and all that, but I don't think anything has changed traditionally. There's certain things we expect of our men and certain things are expected of women. And if we start to mess with that, then you get a lot of confusion. And we got to make sure
that we're having each other's back.
Exactly.
You know what I mean?
Period.
We got to make sure we're having each other's back.
Yes.
It's been a great conversation.
As usual. So thank you guys for joining and those that commented. And if you're catching it on a replay, please remember to hashtag replay in the comments. Don't forget to take a shout and a look at our sponsor, RepYourCityGA.com. Those awesome vintage ATL and Georgia t-shirts. If you got any suggestions for a t-shirt you'd like to see, then hey, hit them up. Hit us up at info@raindropconvos.com if you have any topic suggestions or anything like that. We would love to hear from you. And as usual, guys, thank you for your support and joining in on the convo tonight.
Thanks for listening. Love you guys.
Love you. Peace.